Hello, everyone, and welcome to At Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer, and welcome to our guest, Yvonne Greenstreet, CEO of Alnylam. Great to see you, Yvonne. Thank you for coming.
Lovely to be here, Andy.
So part of your job is explaining what complex biopharma issues are to lay people and to investors. So tell us what your company does.
We believe that we have one of the most exciting companies in biotech. We're founded on Nobel Prize-winning science of RNA interference, where essentially we can switch off the production of disease-causing proteins. And therefore, based on this technology, we've been able to build a very rich pipeline of medicines that are addressing some very important diseases.
So RNAI, as is the technology is called, are based on that kind of science, I guess, is the way to characterize it.
Correct, yes.
What specifically, talk to us a little bit more about this. What specifically is the promise of RNAI that is so unique?
So, we believe that what we have with RNAI is actually a generational technology. RNAI is an approach that can address any gene in the genome. And because of this, it gives the technology huge potential to address a wide range of diseases. And we've made tremendous progress over the last couple of decades since we were founded. We now have brought forward 5 medicines from this technology in just 4 years. And we have also built a pipeline of 15 clinical programs, and our plan is actually to double the number of clinical programs by the end of 2025. So I think what's incredibly impressive about the technology is just how prolific it has been in a very short space of time, based on the science and on what are outsized probabilities of success in the industry. We have about a 10 times better success rate than industry averages.
Recently, you filed for Food and Drug Administration to expand the approval of, I think it's Anutr, to treat a rare and potentially fatal heart condition, ATTR-CM, correct?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that? And is that one of your more promising medicines?
So this is a very important area for us. I mean, just taking a step back to say a few words about the disease. ATTR amyloidosis is caused by protein misfolding, where amyloid gets deposited in a variety of tissues in the body, primarily in the heart and the nerves. And it affects, probably over 300,000 people around the world. So it's rare, but it's not an ultra-rare condition. And what we've been able to do with Anutr is deliver data that demonstrate significant impact on patients with this disease. Anutr is currently available to patients who have the polyneuropathy form of the disease, where amyloid has primarily been deposited in the nerves in the body. And we have been able to deliver a tremendous progress with Anutr and polyneuropathy. And this form of the disease impacts about 30 to 40,000 people around the world. We recently delivered data from a study called Helios-B with Anutr, or vutrisiran as it's also known, in patients with TTR cardiomyopathy. And there are many, many more patients with cardiomyopathy, about 300,000 patients with cardiomyopathy. And the data that we have delivered has demonstrated profound impacts on cardiovascular outcomes, on mortality, on how patients can go about activities of daily living, on quality of life, some important biomarkers that predict the progression of the disease. And so with these data, we have recently submitted to the FDA and are anticipating approval early next year.
So has the FDA approved part of this previously?
Yes, so the FDA has approved the same molecule for use in patients with the polyneuropathy version of the disease.
Right. And you talked about these 5 different areas where you're focused. Is there a common denominator to them?
Well, the common denominator is the incredible
Right.
platform technology
Right.
that we have, that we've been able to identify important genetic targets that we can address with this technology that has a significant impact on the diseases that these patients have.
I guess what I'm asking then is, are other companies using RNA on different types of conditions, and you guys have decided to focus here, or is it sort of more broad-based that you're just
So,
going
I mean,
after?
we're the leading company
Right.
in RNAI, and basically have pioneered the science and actually have validated this platform. So we are really much further ahead in our journey with this technology, and already actually now a top 5 biotech company by market capitalization. Now there are other companies that are beginning to make progress with this technology, because as I said, it's a generational technology. It's got so much applicability and so much potential to benefit human health.
Hasn't Moderna used RNA for the vaccines, right? And you have litigation against them, and also Pfizer. Where does that stand, Yvonne?
So the litigation that is currently ongoing is based on the delivery approach that we pioneered within Alnylam.
Mm-hmm. But Moderna, that was an RNA, use of RNA for vaccines?
mRNA, but
mRNA, I'm sorry.
The basis for
Right.
delivery
Got it.
was based on what we believe to be innovation from Alnylam.
That's what's at issue, I see. And I'm sorry to be so, dare I say, ignorant about these matters, but it's complicated for a layperson like myself, and I apologize. You talked about the company being 20 years old, and I look back, and the stock chart doesn't go really anywhere for the first decade, and then starts to pick up. I mean, the stock was trading in single digits and low teens until 10 years ago, and then picked up, and now you're at 260, 270. What took so long? What's the genesis of all that?
Well, bringing a completely new modality to patients takes a long time. Actually, when you think about the development of antibodies, which are now very established approaches to treating disease, that whole process took about 20 years as well. So actually, what the journey that we've been on at Alnylam is not actually an unusual one in biotech. And when you think about the share price evolution, there have been a number of key breakthroughs along our journey. The first was actually demonstrating that we could deliver this technology to people and be able to point the technology to the tissues that we wanted to be able to address. And that really has opened up this field. Then I think the second big inflection point for the company was really bringing forward the first clinical evidence that you can impact a disease with this technology. And then more recently, as I just said, I think we really are at a transformational point in our journey, having delivered profound and unequivocal benefits of vutrisiran on patients with TTR cardiomyopathy, opening up this much bigger market, which is going to be incredibly important for patients with TTR cardiomyopathy, but is also very important as we think about building this company. This really is a transformational moment for Alnylam as we think about really becoming, the next great biotech company.
Right. Yeah, I think the company has a market cap of $34 billion. You joined the company a number of years ago and became CEO in early 2022, I believe, right? And your personal journey is amazing. We'll get into that in a minute. But what has been at the top of your agenda since becoming CEO, Yvonne?
So when I took on the CEO role, we had a very bold and clear set of goals for the company. And we called these goals P to the fifth by 25. There were 5 elements that we wanted to be able to progress, including progress with the pipeline, product launches, commercial performance, and also an aspiration to move towards sustainable non-GAAP profitability by the end of 2025. And we've been working really hard to execute against these goals. And I'm pleased to say that we're absolutely on track to deliver them. And we're very excited that with the data that we have of vutrisiran from the Helios-B study in hand, we feel more confident than ever that we're going to be able to achieve what we set out to do as I took on the CEO role.
What are the sales channels for drugs like these? How does that work?
So the most important thing is to ensure that you have a really compelling data set. The benefits that you're able to deliver with a medicine are actually really what impact whether a medicine gets used in clinical practice or not. And then clearly there's work to be done, educating physicians, educating payers, educating patients about the opportunity that a new medicine like this is able to bring. And we have put in place actually a very robust commercial engine that allows us to do this in a successful way. And I think the track record that we've demonstrated with Amvuttra for patients with TTR polyneuropathy, I think is an indicator of the success that we're hoping to be able to deliver as we move forward into this much larger and growing market of patients with TTR cardiomyopathy.
Yeah, complexity there is. You have a tough job. So you've entered into a number of partnerships over the years. I was just looking at all those. How does that work? How do you decide when and how to partner with a big, say, legacy pharma company?
That's a great question. As you're building a company like Alnylam, there's some elements that you have to have in place. I mean, we're very fortunate to have this incredible platform, this incredible technology. You also need talent to, be able to move forward, the thinking in the company and execute against your goals. You also need capital. You need to be able to invest in clinical programs and building the organization. And we were able to arrange a number of really quite transformative relationships with larger pharmaceutical companies along our journey that have enabled us to move forward the pipeline in an expeditious fashion, have additional investment that allows us to continue to build our pipeline. So we're really pleased with the partnerships that we've effected over the last several years. Sanofi Genzyme, with Regeneron, other players.
We mentioned the FDA earlier, Yvonne. What could this regulator do better? I know you may be loath to criticize them at all.
Now, look, it's really important that we have a robust regulatory system for biopharmaceutical products. And so the FDA are doing an incredibly important job. As I think about areas that could be optimized, I think having greater consistency across the decisions that the FDA make, I think would provide more clarity for companies like mine that are bringing forward new medicines, innovation to kind of impact a number of different diseases.
Let's shift gears and, in fact, talk about your background a little bit, which is singular, I would say. You were born in England, you grew up in Ghana where your mother's from, then you became an MD, you were an OB/GYN for a while, then you went to business school, then you worked for GlaxoSmithKline. What's motivated you along the way, Yvonne?
At the end of the day, I look to my, background as a physician. And when I was a practicing physician, was obviously very motivated by providing patients with the best possible care. And I've really held on to that throughout my career. And what I find so exciting about being in the industry that I am, and particularly actually being at Alnylam with so much innovation that we're bringing to help patients, is actually the opportunity to serve the needs of not just hundreds of patients, but actually millions of patients around the world. And that's actually what fuels me every day, thinking about the opportunities that we have in our hands to impact the health of humanity.
How would you describe your leadership style?
I think I'm a pretty inclusive leader. I think I'm very mission-orientated, very determined to make sure that we're able to take this incredible technology that we've been gifted, if you like, by nature, and a tremendous sense of accountability to maximizing the impact that we can have on as many diseases and as many patients as we possibly can.
The biotech sector is tricky for investors. I mean, sometimes they'll look to pick one and it flops, and every once in a while, everyone's brother-in-law is the one that goes to the moon, right? And then the basket doesn't seem to work so well because, there's just, you're diversified into sort of like a suboptimal place, I think. What is it about this field that is so complicated?
I think that the science is often complicated. And I think the risks are significant, as well. And it takes a long time to go from an idea for a new medicine through all the stages of development to bringing something to market. That unless you understand the detail of the science, the potential impact that new science can have on patients, how a new medicine might perform in the marketplace, and you have an appetite for risk, it's a complex business, but one that's incredibly exciting, and particularly now, actually, where I think we're at a moment in history, which is really actually a kind of a golden era, if you like, for biomedical innovation.
Do you mean because of genomics?
That really has unlocked, a lot of new opportunity. Our better understanding of the human genome and our better understanding of disease pathophysiology has really enabled, significant progress over the last decade or so. I couldn't be in a more exciting place right now.
When you develop these drugs, Yvonne, it sounds like it is protracted and it's also expensive. And then how do you balance that out with bringing affordable medicines to consumers who need it?
I mean, that is one of the challenges, in the industry. The investment required is substantial. The returns that investors expect need to be commensurate with the risks that they're taking. And I think what is important to reflect on now is, as you bring forward innovation with new medicines that potentially are life-saving, they may be perceived to be expensive in the first several years of being on the marketplace. But the contract that we have with society is after a period of time, those medicines go off patent, they become generic medicines, and they become much, much less expensive. But the fuel, if you like, for continuing to encourage scientists, physicians, investors to come together to try to create new medicines, I think is incentivized by the opportunities that you can bring to patients and the value that you can create.
Your company's based in Cambridge?
Correct.
Which is, the Boston area
Absolutely.
is very much of a hub of biotech.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about the physical footprint of your company, how many employees you have, where your labs are based, how many global offices you have, those kinds of things?
No, so we're very excited to be in Cambridge, which I think is the beating heart of biotech, and we have an office in Cambridge. We have a manufacturing facility just outside Cambridge. But actually, what I think is less known about our company is that we truly are now a global biopharmaceutical company. We make our medicines available in 60 countries around the world. We have a direct presence in 30 countries around the world. And so we really are now truly a global biotech company, which is incredibly exciting. In terms of numbers of people in the company, we're roughly now about 2,200, 2,300 people.
Yeah. And final question, Yvonne, and this is the question that's most important to our audience. Why should investors buy your stock, or if they own it already, hold on to it? What's the promise?
So as I said, we're at this transformational moment in the company. We're about to enter a large, growing, very exciting market with vutrisiran for TTR amyloidosis, assuming regulatory approval. But really, that's just the beginning of what this company is going to be able to do. We're going to be bringing forward a number of really, really important medicines in our pipeline. Our next medicine is potentially for hypertension. It's called zilebesiran. There are huge unmet medical needs in hypertension. It affects over 200 million people around the world, and there's significant unmet medical needs. Patients don't take their medicines. They have variability in blood pressure control. We have an approach which is able to reduce blood pressure and maintain blood pressure lowering. And we believe that this truly has the opportunity to transform the treatment of hypertension. So that's just a program that's in our pipeline. And another area that we're particularly excited about is addressing patients with CNS diseases like Alzheimer's disease. And we're making great strides. We've been able to deliver mivelsiran, which is the name of the program that we're moving forward for patients with neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease. And that really is a remarkable achievement to be able to provide the technology that we have into the CNS to patients with disease. So we're very excited about that. So really what I would say is that Alnylam is on the cusp of really being in a position to drive substantial revenue growth, to achieve sustainable non-GAAP profitability, by the end of 2025. And really, that's just the beginning. When you look at our pipeline, there is so much more to come. And we're a company that's going to be absolutely focused on executing against the promises that we've made.
All right, we'll be watching. Yvonne Greenstreet, CEO of Alnylam. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
This is at Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer. We'll catch you next time.